The University of Michigan has fired recruiting analyst Connor Stalions, a source tells Yahoo Sports. He was previously suspended with pay during the NCAA investigation into in-person scouting.
Sign stealer guy.
Well, that's a big to-do. That's a big to-do. And I think one of the things we've talked about on this show, and we talked about it earlier today, if you're just tuning in here on the Monty Show presented by The Advocates, theadvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business are the Advocates, where you never pay unless and until they win your case. We told you earlier today that this weekend, Tony Petitti is going to meet with Big Ten presidents because Monday he is scheduled to have a call with the NCAA about the Michigan situation. I don't think it's any coincidence that we were hearing that there was going to be discipline handed down this weekend at Michigan, and then what do we get?
Discipline.
We get discipline.
Yeah.
I think Tony Petitti coming to town and Michigan firing Connor Stalions is just the beginning. I think that is I don't know. Is that something where you say to yourself, okay, well, they handed out justice, it's over. Here's the problem with that. There is no, again, here's that term, plausible deniability. Jim Harbaugh was well aware that this was going on in his program, and you fired the guy that was supposedly responsible for it.
Yeah, I wonder. So I wonder who's the next person from Michigan to speak to the media, because I don't think it can be Jim. And I think if it is Jim, that's a mistake.
Well, it's going to be Jim because they play tomorrow.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, I don't know. I think if you're going to fire this cat, well, not if you did. If you're going to fire him, you got to do more than just fire him. Like, firing him, okay, great. But then what's the next thing? I mean, that's like, it's not, we can't, it's like, okay, cool, we're going to fire this guy. And then what's the update? Okay, we're firing him because of X, Y, and Z. What's the explanation? I mean, that's my thing. This is not the same situation as, hey, we're going to fire the guy who got caught on tape trying to meet a 13-year-old girl with alcohol. That's a little bit different. You know, like, that's one where, you know, that's pretty straightforward. That's a crime. Like, okay, yeah, we get it. This is, you know, NCAA violations and all the work.
I think this is the beginning. I think this is not the end. And I think it's very interesting that, you know, just reading the tea leaves, I think we were talking to a source of ours yesterday about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we even said it on the show. Tony Petitti is coming to town, not of coincidence.
No.
And we could talk about lacrosse championships and all of that. He was there to make sure action was being taken, in my opinion. He met with the president at Michigan. From what I understand, there was a meeting that involved the president and the athletic director. Tony Petitti did not meet with Jim Harbaugh, from what I was told, or had no plans to, rather. I think this is the beginning. And this is the least of the moves. Now, there's something else that I think is very interesting. Does this mean that the NCAA or Michigan has finished their investigation? Because I would remind you that Connor Stalions was suspended pending the outcome of this investigation.
So now that you fired him,
here's the other problem. If this is because the investigation's done, now my guess is this meeting with Tony Petitti and the NCAA takes on more meaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not the end, folks.
No, I agree. This is the beginning. I think that, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see where this goes. This has been my question the whole time for Tony Petitti going to Ann Arbor. Okay. He's going to come and he's going to meet with you guys, and you guys are basically going to hammer out what the best path forward is. So yeah, if you're going to fire somebody, that would indicate the investigation is over with. You have all the details. You have all the information. We're not wondering. There's no speculation. We know what happened. We know the circumstance. Now we've moved on to what we're going to do about it. And like you said, hey, there's a game tomorrow for Michigan. We're really going to let this guy on the sideline tomorrow? Come on.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that Jim Harbaugh is going to be viewed very differently standing in the maize and blue tomorrow. And I understand that you don't suspend Jim Harbaugh lightly. But now you fired his boy, who, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, Connor Stalions retained an attorney. What is the last thing Michigan wants Connor Stalions to do?
Sue them.
Because what happens when you sue people?
Discovery.
You really want to go through discovery with Connor Stalions? I think you're going to. Because my guess is Connor Stalions, if he sues, and I don't know that he will, if Connor Stalions sues, he's going to sue for wrongful termination and damage to reputation. And my guess is he's going to say that he was acting at the direction of Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And my guess is he has text messages, emails, phone calls.
If this guy, this is what should scare a Michigan fan. If this guy mentally has the capacity to decode signs, match up the film, run a whole scheme.
Navy Academy graduate,
right.
Naval Academy graduate, Marine captain.
You can be sure as part of this process, he knew what the consequences could be, and he knew how to cover himself if they came.
He kept receipts.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
He kept receipts because you know what the one of the more damning pieces of evidence is? He wasn't trying to hide.
Yeah.
He used a publicly available with his name on it Venmo account. He wasn't trying to hide. He bought tickets in his own name. He was not trying to hide. The guys who went to the games for him are talking to the media. He wasn't trying to hide.
So this is why I ask, Michigan fan, these guys weren't acting in secret. Why? So you really think Jim didn't know? And because these guys weren't acting in secret, that tells me Jim's not good at this whole thing. Like Jim doesn't understand how to cheat properly. Jim doesn't he's not some elaborate and cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough assassin at cheating. And that's what's so amazing about this whole thing is that you would think if you were going to cheat to this scale, you would do it secretively. You would cover your tracks. You wouldn't have a public Venmo account. This guy wouldn't be out here making it that obvious he was on Central Michigan sideline. He wouldn't be doing all this. I mean, and that's the other side of this too for Central Michigan. Now that they fired him, is that not an admittance that was him? I mean, on some level, right?
I don't know that I would draw that line, but I think Central Michigan is complicit by their silence.
Yeah.
Because I just keep saying about this Central Michigan thing, if that wasn't Connor Stalions on the sideline at Central Michigan, dude, why haven't you said that that's not Connor Stalions? That's my daughter's kid, Jimmy. That's our water boy. That's John Doe. If that's not Connor Stalions, who the is it?
Fine Steeler guy.
You know what I mean? That's, to me, Central Michigan is complicit by their silence.
Mm-hmm.
And the damning evidence is their long-standing relationship with Michigan. And the staff that used to work at Michigan that now works at Central Michigan. And that staff worked at Michigan while Connor Stalions was at Michigan. Right? I mean, all this is going in the wrong direction, friends.
It's going downhill now.
And I think you are in a very bad spot. You are in a very, very bad spot here if you're Jim Harbaugh. I don't know. There's no way to.
So you're not spinning out of this, dude.
I'm sick. Jeremy Callahan, I think he should title his memoirs Wild Stallions. See what he did there?
Right.
Jeff Woodward, can we please talk about NDAs again? That was so much fun. Good luck. Good luck. You can't tell me you have a recruiting. His title was recruiting analyst, $55,000. You made him sign an NDA? Nah, somehow I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
A report, Michigan fired Connor Stalions. Michigan says this is just a beginning of a broader change in Michigan football leadership per someone close to Michigan administration. Maybe. I can only lean on what our sources are telling us. And again, our sources told us Tony Petitti, his trip to Michigan was deliberate. He met with the president and the athletic director at Michigan. He is going to speak to all of the presidents in the Big Ten on a call tomorrow. He has already met with coaches on a call. He's already met with ADs on a call. He is going to meet with presidents. And then he is going to meet with the NCAA on Monday. We'll see. I don't, there's no good way to spin this.
Yeah, it's brutal.
This is, I mean, you can, Michigan fan, you can say anything you want to say. But now that Michigan has fired Connor Stalions, this is no longer some small thing. Dan Wetzel at Yahoo Sports is reporting that Michigan fires Connor Stalions, suspended with pay during an NCAA investigation into in-person scouting. He has now been terminated.
Nicole Auerbach is reporting that Connor Stalions refused to cooperate with any internal or external investigations or discussions, according to her source.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good. So if Connor Stalions is boy, that's just not how you want to handle this, Karen.
Yeah. That's not good, dude.
Connor Stalions, if he was uncooperative.
Yeah.
If he was in fact uncooperative with the investigation, you're in real trouble. Because why would you be uncooperative? Well, you'd be uncooperative because you're protecting somebody. Who do you think he's protecting?
Must be obvious, right?
I mean, that's the only reason that you're going to not cooperate with an investigation, Jim Harbaugh. Right? That's the only reason that you're not going to cooperate.
Connor Stalions seems like a Jim Harbaugh disciple. He seems like someone who loved Jim, who would do anything for Jim, and follows right in the same philosophy as Jim.
Michigan Manifesto.
Right. Hey, I'm not going to cooperate. And why am I not going to cooperate? Well, because my boss didn't cooperate, and he told me not to cooperate, so I'm not going to cooperate. Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think now Jim Harbaugh's on the clock because there's no suspending him, I don't think. I think that the minute he is suspended, he will be fired. And you're going to, and what I mean by that is we're suspending Jim Harbaugh until the investigation's finished. He'll never coach another game at Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when you fire Connor Stalions because he wouldn't cooperate, and your head coach, who didn't even know Connor, I had no idea. With Connor who?
Who?
I would never do that.
What?
Has a history of not cooperating and has a level 1 violation to prove it. This is football. This is how Michigan football operates now. Now we have a pattern. Now we have more than one person not cooperating with high-level investigations. This is a problem. Tanner Plummer, people got to know whether or not Michigan head coach is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. Signed the Wee Fence.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Me?
Jeff, I'm not going to play your game. I'm not doing it. AAR. Connor Stalions, sign guy 007. Talk to my lawyers. Yeah. Mike Smith. Connor falls on the sword and yells out, snitches get stitches.
Fine Steeler guy.
You know, John DeLon, Connor is protecting Jeem. How sweet.
That's what I mean, dude. This is you can see where this is going. You can absolutely see where it's going, dude.
Where else would it be going?
Yeah.
To catch a stallion.
Yeah.
Exactly, Aaron. Go Black. Go Tigers. Guys, we're about to see a great magic trick. A stallion is going to turn into a rat. But who's going to force his hand?
Jim.
The detail that Nicole brought forward that he didn't cooperate. So is he the fall guy? Is he the mark? Is he the patsy for this whole thing?
I think we could be heading that direction. So when you say, hey, who's going to force his hand? I think Jim would be the guy to force his hand because Jim's going to deny everything. We already know that. We know Jim's not going to cooperate and he's going to deny everything. And so then that means that Stalions will be the fall guy, which then means that he is going to sue Michigan for wrongful termination, and these two are going to fight it out, which then means that you're going to have to suspend Jim Harbaugh for the duration of this investigation, which then means, as you just said, Jim Harbaugh is never going to coach another football game for Michigan, which is incredible timing considering you've been on bye and it's Friday before your Saturday game, and all of this is coming out. So does Jim Harbaugh set foot on that sideline tomorrow? I have a hard time believing that, but maybe it happens. Maybe it happens. But man, I have a hard time believing that after you just fired Connor Stalions. I don't know how that squares. I don't know how that works. I don't know how Michigan can stand to fire the guy who everyone believes was on CMU's sideline and who is widely regarded as the dude that stole all these signs, but then at the same time have the head man orchestrator on your sideline coaching the game. How are we doing that? And by the way, how is it that who the hell is Michigan playing? Who's Michigan got?
Purdue.
Boiler
up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Purdue, how are you playing this game if Jim's on the sideline?
Brandon Butler. We're about to see how loyal a hungry Stallions really is.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's what I don't understand. Like,
oh, Brandon, I love you.
This is classic mob movie type stuff, dude. Like, hey, you were running a scheme and you didn't. There's no way. I agree. There's no way you're having a $55,000 a year employee sign an NDA. That never happens. Can't imagine it would happen here. And you get caught, dude gets fired. You really tell me he's not coming after you to square things up? Come on now.
That's rough. I think that's rough. That's why he was terminated, because he wouldn't cooperate. I think that's probably why he was terminated. I think you're exactly right. I mean, compliance and participation is, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but I know in all NCAA athletic contracts, yeah, there is language that essentially says it's a given you're going to cooperate with investigations. It's like a stipulation in your employment contract. And that's why it's a level 1 violation when you do not. And when you make $55,000 a year as a football analyst and you don't cooperate, you're going to get whacked.
Yeah, and Adam Rittenberg, who's been all over this from ESPN, is saying that not cooperating, what that actually looks like is that Stalions did not attend a meeting with Michigan officials today, possibly on advice of his counsel. So
he retained a lawyer yesterday, I believe it was.
Yeah. So
Jeff says Michigan had to fire him as an analyst before they could hire him as the head coach per his manifesto. That's a good point.
Right.
You know, LFG says innocent person would fully cooperate. They would not. What if it incriminates you? Do you watch Suits? Hello.
No.
No.
Idiots.
I don't believe that innocent people always cooperate. I think if you are a Harbaugh guy and you're innocent, are you going to cooperate, knowing it's going to probably be part of his downfall? If you are sign stealer guy, are you going to cooperate, knowing you're probably going to get fired anyway? Because that's what somebody just texted me. Why does he care? He was getting fired anyway.
And think about who we're talking about, though. We're talking about an operative. You're talking about someone who understands the game they're playing, believes they can win and not get caught, and do it in an open, public fashion. That's who you're dealing with here. Don't forget that. So he's not going to cooperate. He's not going to help anybody. He's going to help himself.
No. Boss Frog, who I think works in compliance. Most ethics and employment policies have a policy that employees must participate in internal investigations. Must.
Yeah.
Gary Wolf, I'm not a crook. I'm not a crook. Said Richard Nixon and not Jim Harbaugh. Mike Smith playing the role of Ollie North in the Michigan play, Connor Stalions, a real life Marine captain.
I'm going to say this again.
I think Michigan wants Stalions to be the fall guy. That's why he lawyered up.
I want you to listen to me.
I think my guess is they're looking for somebody internally to say, yeah, we did this and he knew about it. I think that's what they were hoping Connor Stalions would say. And he refused. And I think it makes a lot of sense to me that he is going to sue and that he did not want to incriminate himself, because I'm also guessing that his lawyer has read through his employment agreement. I mean, that's why you write an employee handbook, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah, 100%.
That's why I hire attorneys. And I would guess, I think that's a very good point. Jake, I think you or somebody said his lawyer probably advised him not to participate.
Yeah.
So, hey, you do you, man. You do you. Michael Jarrett, I can't wait to see that Team Up North's game the rest of the year. Pretty sure we will find out. Also, funny thing is Desmond will make excuses if that Team Up North loses, because he knew too, guaranteed. That is the joke. Watch. Everybody knew. Boss Frog, yeah, I'm really questioning this report. He didn't cooperate. You are. I think it makes sense because he was getting whacked anyway. Does anybody really think what were they going to let him keep his 401k? It's his money anyway.
Come on, man.
I mean, he was getting whacked anyway. They were going to fire him. There's no doubt about that. So, 49er UCLA Wolverine, Harbaugh just 2-game suspension, due process wins. This was all a witch hunt. Is that like official? Did I miss something? A 2-game suspension? How does that happen? I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that. Is that a 2-game suspension? Is probably not doing this. This was all just a witch hunt. Michigan will kick Penn State and OSU's ass this year. Yeah, I don't know about that. You probably are you referring to the unsportsmanlike policy at the Big Ten? Because Tony Petitti isn't following that policy. I don't know how many people have noticed that. There's a policy in the Big Ten bylaws that says Tony Petitti has the right to use the unsportsmanlike conduct policy to suspend somebody, and most people think this is a slap on the wrist. But he doesn't have to go and ask anybody's opinion to do that.
No.
And Tony Petitti is taking part in a barnstorming tour, essentially. He's talking to all the coaches, all the athletic directors, all the presidents tomorrow. Met with Michigan administration, president and AD today. Was there when they fired Connor Stalions, and now is meeting with the NCAA on Monday. You think he's doing that for a 2-game suspension? Really? No, I'm being serious. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. Aaron Wilson, shout out to my dad who passed 1 year ago today. He would have loved this show. Thank you for the comfort and community over the last year. You're welcome. Thanks for being here, man. John DeLon. So Connor was walking the Michigan sidelines with 200 pages of printed paper, consulting with both coordinators for 2.5 years, and Gene was clueless. Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying.
He knew. Brandon Butler for $5. We are about to find out how loyal a Hungry Stallions is. Yes, I read that one. My bad. This is how the Watergate scandal played out. Multiple White House officials fell on the sword for Nixon. Now Stallions is doing the same for the Wii fence.
I don't know about that, dude. I'm not buying that.
I don't necessarily believe he's falling on a sword. He was never getting his job back. If you're Connor, put yourself in Connor Stalions' shoes. Well,
guys.
I mean, I'm still getting paid, so there's a chance. You think I get next year's Jordan gear? I don't think he was thinking, but he was not. He knew he wasn't getting his job back. If he thought he was getting his job back, that guy is a jag. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and we also have to presume that, again, a guy of this caliber, right? This mental capacity, this ability, he's able to forecast and look forward. He knows what's coming. He knows he was going to get fired. He knows, he knew that suspension was going to happen. You know that. And so you can't tell me this whole time he wasn't getting a lawyer ready. Just because it got announced today doesn't mean that he hadn't had that lined up for however long now.
He knew. bro. He knew. I think it is the national reaction to this is hysterical. Like, it's so funny to me that Colin Cowherd is quoted and Fox is spitting this out everywhere. The demand for a rush to punishment for Michigan is about one thing: fear. Fear of what? No, you know what it's about? People's fucking legacies.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. This idea that there is no victim here is absolutely ridiculous. And we got to stop with that. Do you really think there's no victim here? Are you kidding me? I don't understand this defense. Well, who really? They're just scared of Michigan. Michigan's going to kick their ass. Well, if you knew every sign and you knew where to be and when to be there on the football field, you think you wouldn't win every game too? What? Like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, people really believe that.
That's absolutely ridiculous. That's ridiculous. CJ Stroud, anybody on any team that they stole signs from is a victim here. He cost CJ Stroud money. There's no question about that. There's just no question about that. Sorry, man. I'm not doing this thing where it's like, oh, there was no victim here.
There were hundreds, if not thousands.
I mean, it's remarkable to me that you have the volume of leaks that have come out of Michigan that have fed the narrative on this, and you still think it's because people are scared of Michigan football. No, nobody's scared of Michigan football. You know what was driving? You know who was scared, Colin? Jim Harbaugh was scared of getting fired because he wasn't winning games. He had 0 wins of consequence 3 years ago. 0. They were sputtering. There were talk about him not keeping his job. And then all of a sudden, man, out of nowhere, he beats Ohio State 2 years in a row, including at the shoe. Holy cow.
He's figured it out.
This guy's amazing. You really think that's what happened? There was nobody's scared of Michigan. They're fed up with Michigan. They're fed up with Michigan. Like, come on.
Totally agree, man.
Come on. This is wild to me. It's wild that people think this is about fear. This is not about fear.
No, because Michigan hasn't done anything to, instill fear. I mean, Michigan hasn't beaten Georgia. Like, that's why there's fear. That's why schools fear Georgia and Alabama most years, because those two are unstoppable. Those two, you're not doing anything about it. I would contend that even if you had their signs, they'd still beat you because they are that much better than you.
Yeah, it is wild to me how we can look at this completely differently. Like, we all sit here talking about Connor Stalions getting fired today, and it's like, oh, everybody's scared of Michigan. Nobody's scared of Michigan. We know what they did. Like, the evidence is man. I know he plays him this week, but I agree 100% with what Ryan Walter said. It's not alleged anymore.
It's unfortunate, and what's crazy is there aren't allegations. Like, it happened. You know what I mean? And there's video evidence. There's ticket purchases and sales that you can track back, and we know for a fact that they were at a number of our games. And so we've had to teach our guys a new language in terms of some signals, and we will operate differently offensively. Like, you might see us in a huddle for the first time this season. So it is what it is, but we're excited to go play, and I think it'll make for a great story.
Laura Weiss makes a great point too. One does shady and desperate things when they're at risk of being fired.
Yes.
Totally agree.